Hello, good morning, it is me. Long time no see. How are y'all? I see lots of people's posts, so I know that everybody's doing all right. I know it's very early in the morning here in the UK, but I had just had a swift revelation around myself, and I was changing my bed sheets. And I was remembering how old I was, perhaps, when I remembered how lovely it was to get into crisp, clean sheets as a kid. And I lived and worked on a farm up till the age of 19. And I remember it wasn't that clean. And I've had throughout my adult life, especially as a mother and a housewife, I was kind of an industrial cleaner in my home. I was quite, I guess you would call me in the more, I was a bit obsessive compulsive disordered around cleanliness for a variety of reasons. But it occurred to me that, I used to give myself a hard time for always hoovering and washing, and like the kids only had to come through the door and I was nearly stripping them of their clothes to get them in the washing machine. There was an element of control going on, but trying to keep my life in some sort of order after it was so disordered and quite unclean as a kid. There was never any clean floors unless I cleaned them where I lived as a child on the farm. And it just felt, now looking back, I sort of acclimatised myself to it. But looking back, it was very much this, I was living in a lot of dirt and uncleanliness and sort of inelegance and unpredictability and not a lot of peace, and it wasn't particularly calm and relaxed. I was on call a lot of the time. If I was seen, I used to get asked to do things. It was that sort of thing. And then, whilst I was making my bed, and I was thinking about this as how obsessive I was with cleaning and keeping it tidy and organised in my own home. Even at the ripe old age of 63, nearly 64, it suddenly occurred to me that the way that I gave love to my family, to my children and my then husband, was to make it clean, because that is what I wanted. That's what I didn't have as a child, and then I was wanting that for me as well as for them, and I was a tyrant with it all as well. I was always hounding people to tidy up, clean up, don't drop crumbs. I was quite uncomfortably, in another way, I was just as... So even though I don't have my daughters in my life now, I wonder if their homes are a little bit more relaxed, or whether they copied me and became cleaning generals, sergeant majors, whatever. But it was another level for me. Hello, good morning, whoever's joined me. I can't see, I can see somebody's on, but I can't see who it is. It was another level for me to understand myself at that level, that why I was such a manic cleaner. It became my number one priority. I was always scanning the floor for bits, and I still have that now. And it's interesting that I'm in a house that's similar to the one that I used to live in, and the floors aren't particularly to my pleasing, not because they've got bits on them, just because of the surface, that it's not carpets, it's hard flooring. So there's a lot of healing going on in this new house of mine, and around all of that, about being more relaxed, around acceptance and just generally being more relaxed and not quite so controlling around how my environment is. Because it was like I had to have a clean environment, so I felt calm. I felt not calm, but relaxed, I suppose. It was that. It was, it's interesting. I mean, I could unpick this even more, and at the same time, it's made me let go of a lot of the. I think I did, but and another level of letting go of the guilt that I carry around being so sergeant major in my family home with my family, my children, and my then husband, because it gives it a meaning. You know, I can see that it's from my childhood that it makes me want to cry a little bit. You know, feel that emotion coming up that that in order for me to feel okay, I had to have a clean, tidy, organised environment. And you know, as daft as it may sound, my children must have hated that level of tenseness that went on around Mum being the cleaning sergeant major, you know. And another apology for that way of being that I was in my not knowing, you know. If I'd have known differently, if I could have seen that every time I got the Hoover out, there was something else going on. It was so interesting. Just before we moved from our other flat, I was in some upset and came into the house. Stephen was in the house, and I came into the house, and nearly the first thing I did was get the Hoover out. And then started barking, I'm going to use that word, questions and instructions to him. And he, bless his cotton socks, said to me, hang on a minute, Sunday, you've come into the house, no, you haven't been in here 5 minutes, you've come in like a tornado and I'm getting swept up in it. And it absolutely pulled me up, and I just said, thank you so much for your support in helping me to see that I was going into that old pattern of organising my environment so that I could feel something other than what I was feeling in that very moment, which was a disruption inside of me. So I'm pleased to say that I went and sat on my sofa and sat with this cocktail of that was going on in me until it passed. You know, I witnessed it, gave it a shape, gave it a colour, gave it a sensation, gave it an intensity, did all the peace process stuff with myself, and then let it go. So those old wirings that we have in us, they, from childhood, they really do wire in, they're sort of in there, and the game is to spot them before they take us over. You know, that's the game. It's okay, what's going on? And then if you've got somebody who can support you, it's even easier, because then they can see, are you going into some sort of old pattern here? Oh yeah, I am. I mean, you have to be open to that, because a lot of people would perhaps not be so willing to be supported in that way. But I know that Stephen loves me and I trust him, and you know, he's going to point out things that are going to be useful. And sometimes he points out things that aren't useful, but you know, I get to choose. I'm in the driving seat of me. I get to choose whether I take on his support or not. But it's fascinating looking at, well, for me it is, looking at yourself and looking at, why am I doing this? What's going on for me? Why do I feel like I feel? Or sometimes we don't even know. I just know that sometimes I've got a cocktail of stuff inside of me, and then I jump into my head to make sense of it, and that's the story. Whereas in my world now, the game for me is to get out of here and get into my body and be with these sensations that are just old attached feeling sensations to something that happened in my past that I might not even blinking well remember, clearly anyway. So if this has been helpful, you know, what are you noticing about you? Where are your old patterns that actually are just a pattern and don't serve you anymore? And because it didn't serve me to be stuck behind a bloody Hoover, vacuum cleaner, whatever you want to call them, every day, says she, about to go and clean. Because I'm changing my bed, there's feathers everywhere, so I've got to go Hoover. And I'm having the conversation with myself. Okay, shall I lift these things up so I can hoover underneath them, you know, and all that sort of stuff. Oh goodness me, we are funny, aren't we? Don't you think we're funny? Or is it just me? Anyway, have a lovely day, whatever you're doing today. If you're a cleaning fiend like me, well, if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. And if you're wondering, why am I spending so much time cleaning? Maybe you want to ask yourself, how can I do this differently? All right, lots of love. Bye for now. Bye.